Just in the last 50 years or so, we've seen an enormous increase in the human enterprise. Driven by population partly. In the last 50 years, the population of the world more than doubled, just a little bit more than doubled, but the economy grew far, far more. We increased the economy in terms of total inflation-adjusted activity by about 8-fold. So twice as many people doing 8 times more stuff. At the same time, our use of food roughly tripled, our use of water roughly doubled, and our use of fossil-based energy roughly tripled. So that just happened in 50 years. I'm going to turn 50 this year myself, so this is basically my lifetime. And so what's kind of extraordinary is that the last 2 generations, just in 50 years, changed more, not only than any other period in history, it changed more than history itself. Land, water, even the sky itself are all feeling the effects of the human footprint. So this tells me anyway, and I think all of us, that we're really pushing not just our local environment, but the planet to major limits of land, water, climate, oceans, fisheries, and so on. In multiple ways, almost all of our global environmental issues come down to 3 big things. If you remember only one thing from this talk, is the environment is mostly being changed around the world from 3 things: how we use and produce food, how we use and produce water, and how we use and produce energy. We've seen incredible changes in just the last same 50 years. For example, life expectancies went from 50 on average around the world to over 70. Families are getting much smaller. Families used to have over 5 children per woman, now are below 2.5. So we're living longer lives with much smaller families. We are going through the so-called demographic transition all over the world, and that's very good news. We're also far more literate. In 1965, about 50% of the world could read and write at a basic level. Today it's 85% and growing rapidly. Interestingly, in the early 20th century, it was about 15%. Through most of human history, about 10% of the world was literate. Pretty soon it'll be 90%. That's good news. We're more urban. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we are living in more cities today. Over half of the world population, for the first time, lives in an urban area. We're also far more mobile in terms of getting around and traveling around the world. And obviously, we're far more connected. I didn't even bother putting this up. We have infinitely more cell phones than we did 50 years ago, it turns out. Just do the math. And if you believe his Steven Pinker, whose interesting book called Enlightenment Now just came out, and others, like The Battle Angels of Our Nature and others, he points out that we live now in a time with less violence and warfare than any other time in human history. So that's pretty amazing. We need to step back and remember some good things are happening. We're living longer, safer, better, and healthier lives in a safer, more connected, and smarter world than ever. So that's the good news. So that's kind of the paradox of our time, isn't it? There's some good things and some bad things. So we have a time where, is it a planetary crisis, or is it a moment of opportunity? People ask me this all the time, and this is my answer. It's like, well, which one will it be? The answer is going to be, that's up to you. We have political and media leaders today who are deliberately trying to instill fear and deliberately trying to divide us for their own benefit, for money, for ratings, for votes, but not for us. That's what's happening today, and we have to call that out because it's very, very dangerous. Just look at the numbers. We see today that trust in media, the conversation we have in America about ourselves, is at an all-time low. Only 11% of Americans trust the media. Ed Murrow and Walter Cronkite are spinning in their graves today. Our political, our government, who are supposed to help us and supposed to work for all of us, right now only 19% have confidence in the White House. I'm surprised it's that high, actually, but so be it. 8%, even lower, have confidence in our House of Representatives, in the Senate, in the Congress. That's incredible when you think about it. And this is my favorite statistic of ever. 80% of Americans, the vast majority of all of us, are unified in our common belief that we're more divided than ever. If we're feeling helpless and hopeless and paralyzed, it doesn't matter what science, technology, markets, and policies do, because we will not act on them, and we can't even have a civilized conversation about it. So this is the problem. The most limiting thing to getting to a better world isn't science, or markets or policy or technology. Those are important, we need them. But the thing that's actually getting in our way right now is the national dialogue. It's the narrative, it's the culture, it's what's paralyzing us with fear. That's what we have to solve. It's no longer enough to do just good science. It's not enough to observe the world. We have a job today, and it's to serve the world. Don't just do good science. Make sure your science does good, because this moment in history needs it.